Hello contractors and homeowners. In this video I would like to take a look at the exterior door replacement. We're going to show you how to remove an existing door. We're going to remove the trim and the threshold, everything, and mounting the European door instead. We're going to show you how to mount the base, how to mount the frame, and how to waterproof the opening. Since we have only 2 inches and 3/4 frame, due to the thickness of the wall, we recommend to use a base. So for the base, you can use pretty much any material. Can be fiberglass, deck boarding, can be pretty much any exterior material that typically used. What we're gonna use 1/4 by 8 1/4 due to the 2x6 wall aluminum saddle threshold. What we're gonna do, we're gonna mount it height of the floor or a little bit higher depending on the carpet, because we're only gonna have around 1/4 under the door and the bottom of the factory threshold. So this base is gonna be raised up to the needed height. So let's say 1/4 of the space under our door, and then plus whatever height we need to raise in order to allow the carpet or pretty much enough space for the above the interior floor. So since the door was completely removed and we have a clear rough opening, what we're gonna do, we're gonna zip tape the whole opening starting from the bottom, overlapping everything on the top as a second stage from the top, overlapping the seam of the tape on the bottom. We're gonna do the Z-shape metal, brake metal over here, overlapping with the aluminum threshold on the top. So after all the components are installed and zip taped, you can just do the vertical parts overlapping the bottom, all the bottom zip tape. When you apply the zip tape, overlapping each other from inside to outside, so the seam of the zip tape is not facing the outside from the moisture. Everything's overlapping each other from the top to the bottom. So the first layers you have to start from the bottom first and then overlap from the top. By the way, 3/4 of the factory threshold, plus we're gonna have like 1/8 of the gap, plus 1/4 of the board, flat board we're gonna put under. The Middle European frames come with 2 3/4 thick. So technically what you have to do is L-shaped trim outside flush with the inside, and here is a bracket. So we're gonna unscrew this one, and then there is a connector in order to sit inside of this groove. So we're gonna turn it and it's gonna be sticking out in order to put screws and fix the frame. But again, this is just one of the methods. You can mount this frame the same way as you would install any other door. So you can remove the plugs over here and put the screws through the frame all the way into the wall. So it doesn't have to be mounted by connectors, these ones right here. Here's the final result. So it sits inside of the groove right here, and you just turn it, you see. So some doors might come with a screw over here already fixed, some will have this bracket separately, so just needs to be put in and turned like this. sticking outside, the inside from the inside. So your sheet is going to be flush over here, L-shaped trim on the outside. So since all of the waterproofing is done, this opening is ready for the aluminum threshold installation. So the floor height, we're gonna be above the floor with the base, just like 1/4 plus 3/4 of the threshold, so it's gonna be around 1 inch, the same way as the previous door, on the top of the finished flooring, so the homeowner can put the carpet inside, or just have enough space to put whatever's under. The zip tape, we just put in the piece of AZEK matching the height of the floor, so our threshold is going to be angled outside. Since our AZEK is installed, we're going to install the threshold angled outside. So we're going to apply all the sealant, the silicone, the spray foam, and then it's going to sit angled, and then the AZEK is was mounted in level with all of the shims. So like this. So after we mounted the threshold, we just seal in the gaps so there is no moisture gets trapped on the edges, even though we already done the waterproofing underneath with the brake metal and then the zip tape. So since we waterproof the edges, I'm gonna put the sealant between the our extension board and then the factory threshold, since it's only 2 3/4. So here's the next step. We already put the frame into the opening on the top of the silicone. What we're doing right now, we're not using any shims yet. We're just mounting the frame, centering it up, flush with the inside, making sure everything's plumb and level. Just shims on the top and on the bottom. Putting just randomly screws, making sure the position of the frame is correct, and then we're gonna put the shims under hinges behind the strike plate and everything else. So after we hang the door, we pretty much put the shims behind the frame everywhere, and then in order to determine that everything's level and everything's correct is when the gasket is airtight everywhere around the door and the frame. Also, a very important part about the frame, since it's 3.5 by another 3 inches, you don't want any deformation of the frame, since you can bend it while the installation. So we only use the shims on the top and only on the bottom. The rest we're gonna just do the spray foam, unless you can put the shims accurately, in order to avoid the deformation of the frame while putting any shims. Here's the final result. Since everything's airtight, and then the strike plate has a day and night position. So this one is a night position, doesn't move anymore, meaning we close the door, it's gonna stay shut, so you won't be able to push the door in. So now I'm switching to the top. The switcher starts moving. I just close the door, Now I just push. Close the door, push. Electric strike plate. So the final step is just to mount the hardware and pretty much spray foaming around. So the cylinder is mounted by a screw over here. We fix the cylinder, and then before putting the cylinder in, we put the plates on first. So first you mount with a screw, fixing the cylinder itself, the this part, and then 2 plates you fix from the inside of the house. Very simple. 1, 2, 3 screws. Here's the lawn bar installation kit. So technically you have a plate that goes between the door frame, the door slab and the lawn handle, and 2 screws. So these 2 screws have like a notch over here for the screw connector in order to mount into the door. So you have to put the plate first, and then the the fixation screw. I was talking about should be either in the kit or in the door handle already. So the long handle, you mount it on the top and then tighten it up with the Allen key screw. Here's the final result. Here's the final result right before spray foaming. So technically everything's waterproofed with a zip tape, sealed on the bottom, sloped base from moisture to go outside, and then it just needs to be spray foamed, and that's it. The next stage is a trim installation. So technically you saw the whole process from removal to a very finished installation without the trim. So the opening has all of the waterproofing, spray foaming around, so it's already waterproofed and airtight. The only second stage is pretty much putting the trim around. So we're planning to do the red oak, painting it black to match the color of the door and of the fiber cement in black next to it. But this we'll show you in the next video. The trim is only cosmetic. The main part is over here, pretty much aligning the door, shims on the top and on the bottom, and then the brackets everywhere. The brackets we have to move closer to the inside so nothing is sticking out on the inside, because we have a trim that we want it to be tight over here. So this is an existing trim, and then in the second stage installation, we're gonna seal the gap, the joint between